Right, coming to you. Okay.
My name's Michael Sheridan. I'm the Secretary to the Scottish Law Agents Society. Today we're setting out to reach the top of Ben Nevis. Along with my good friend Frank. So here we are at the top of Ben Nevis. Well done, Frank.
Thank you, Michael. I'm going to read it without you.
Sorry. No, I just can't. Right, you're on it.
Anyway, some of my colleagues at work were saying to me, why don't you think about taking your workstation up to the top of Ben Nevis? So, ever obliging, here I am. Now, talking about work, of course, the next big thing is the annual general meeting of the Law Society of Scotland. And I just wanted to make a few comments about that because although it might seem quite complicated, the issue is very simple. The issue here is whether or not you wish to change the law so that investment lenders, including venture capitalists, the people that did so much for the Scottish banking sector in the last few years, destroyed it actually, can have ownership of up to 49% of law firms. That's what the AGM is going to address. You have the opportunity of voting for that. You do so by either attending and voting in favour of the Council of the Law Society's amendment, or else send a proxy in their favour. If you want to vote against investment owners, including venture capitalists, having a share of law firms, then you support the Scottish Law Agents Society's motion. It was already successful, of course, at the special general meeting in April, now requires to be confirmed at the annual general meeting. So you should have received by now a form of proxy and an explanatory letter from the Law Agents Society. You complete and return that proxy and we will vote against ownership by investment lenders and venture capitalists. Quite honestly, I'm standing at the top of Ben Nevis. I'm actually freezing cold. I'm going to just stop it here, maybe take it up later on, but that's as far as I can go at this point in time. Thanks very much. Well, I'm sorry colleagues, but it simply was not practicable to complete that exercise at the top of Ben Nevis. It's quite nice to live in a country where you can walk to the Arctic Circle, but it's not the place to be doing your work, I'm afraid. Now, the point I was trying to make is that at the Law Society AGM this year, we have a very simple issue to address and determine, and that is whether institutional lenders, including venture capitalists, should acquire ownership rights in legal practices. There's no halfway house between either side of that issue. There's no each side of that issue is exclusive of the other. We have to decide this one way or another. This last position is that there should be no external ownership, and that was the Law Society position as voted upon at the special general meeting on 21st April. And it's the Council of the Law Society that wish to change the position, and they wish to authorise ownership rights to be conferred, to be available for institutional lenders, including potential venture capitalists. Now, this last position does not proceed from any predetermined opinion or point of view. It proceeds from inquiry and investigation by means of questionnaires around the profession, meetings with solicitors up and down the country, meetings with members of the Scottish Parliament, meetings with members of the Council of the Law Society, with ministers of the Scottish Government, and come to the conclusion that there should be no potential for venture capitalists to have ownership rights in legal practices. Now, there are subsidiary questions on each side of this issue. Taking the Council of the Law Society's position, it has changed very significantly in the last few weeks. A few weeks ago, the council position was that we should authorise up to 100% ownership and therefore total control of law practices in the hands of institutional lenders. Now they have changed that to a maximum of 49% and stated that 49% ownership and stated that control should be in the hands of solicitors. So this would appear in the face of it to be a reversal of policy. They now state that control should be in the hands of solicitors. But this leads to two other important questions that perhaps need to be answered. The first one is, what support in the profession, what consultation was carried out prior to that change of policy? What studies were carried out to suggest that ownership that control should be retained by solicitors? What was the driver for that change of policy? The second question is, why should we accept that a limitation to 49% of ownership necessarily excludes control? Why should control not be acquired by a 49% owner in terms of the partnership agreement or the articles of association, as the case may be? Again, that's a question, but it's one which needs an answer. If it is of importance where control lies in respect of law practices. Now, on the SLAS side, there's also a subsidiary question. It has been clear from the inquiries and responses we've received that there is widespread but by no means universal support for a 25% ownership in favour not of institutions, not of lenders, but of natural persons who are relevant regulated professionals such as accountants or surveyors or indeed senior employees of law practices. So that is a definite possibility that that particular form of alternative business structure could be acceptable to SLAS and to the membership. For that reason, we have put an inquiry onto our proxy form inviting each member of the profession to register an opinion in respect of the 25% question. Now, if you are opposed to the 25% proposal, and SLAS may well vote for it, nevertheless, in common sense, you still have to return your proxy in favour of SLAS, because if you do not do so, then you open the way for a much wider area of non-solicitor ownership, up to 49% and not restricted to natural persons. So at the end of the day, if you want to exclude venture capital from having ownership rights in law practices, then you have to either attend at the AGM and vote to that effect, or complete and return the SLAS proxy form. In closing, I want to make two references out with the legal profession. One is to the banking sector. I'll just state very briefly that we all know that the banking sector underwent deregulation a few years ago. We understand that that was followed by the complete and total destruction of the Scottish banking sector, and all banks in Scotland are now either English or foreign based. I'm not saying the same necessarily will follow this proposed deregulation of the legal profession, but serious thought must be given to this, and we must have some very firm assurance as to why it would not happen. The second reference I want to make is to the medical profession. As I understand, just reading newspapers, about a year ago there was some suggestion that investment capital might be interested in getting a hold of some of the Scottish GP medical practices, and the Scottish Government immediately brought in a change to the law in the Tobacco and Primary Medical Services Bill, which made it illegal and impossible for institutional lenders to acquire any interest or control in medical GP practices. And you might wish to take the view that the same protection should be maintained in the case of Scottish legal practices. Thank you very much.